right, well, welcome to Module 7. So this week and next, actually, we're going to talk about your personal development. It's a big part of what this major is about. Like we've talked about before, in order for you to be good at helping someone else, you have to have a good amount of personal awareness, know who you are, so that you don't unintentionally influence the person, because again, this isn't about you when you're helping someone else be the person that they want, can, should be. It's not about you, it's about them. In order to have that type of mindset, you kind of got to know a little bit about yourself. So what I thought we would do is go through a couple modules actually dedicated to this, of self-discovery tools, if you will, I guess. So this is just a few pieces of information I think that can help you. Now, the all course so far, you've been reading the two books, one on well-being, the one on emotional intelligence, and the purpose of that is partly this here, personal development, and you took the assessments for those, and that of course is being worked in as far as the reflections and whatnot for this module and next. So those two tools I thought were especially important for this course, but I'm going to present to you a couple of more tools, and the point of this is, okay, so these you can use internally for your own personal development, but at the same time I hope that you take the leap into saying, you know what, I might be able to use these tools also with people that I'm going to be working with, and I might be able to find out a little more information about them, and they can find information out about themselves that can help them improve their overall well-being. So let's get started. So the tools that we're going to talk about, of course, well-being and emotional intelligence. We're also going to touch on strength finders, one called Reese Motivation Profile. There's a compassionate index, and there's an empathy index that we'll just touch on briefly. One of the points I want to make sure that you understand is that there's a whole lot of tools out there like this. These are only just a couple that I chose to talk with you about. So keep that in mind as we go through. And likewise, when we get to the tool like well-being, there's a lot of well-being tools that will measure well-being. And we're only using just one here, the one by Gallup that was in the book, as the same as for emotional intelligence too. So keep that in mind as you go through this. So the first one here on well-being, this should look familiar to you when you took your initial assessment in well-being. You should have been able to get a graph that looks like this. And again, you know, as far as the way Gallup does this, and they measure well-being as in career, social, financial, physical, and community well-being, and that resonates with me. I think that's those 5 criteria are nice and well-rounded, and as we talked about last week, well-being is, you know, in this greater context of who people are. The advantages of this, I think, is it really captures who we are and where we are currently in our lives, and recognizing that this ebbs and flows as you go through time, and that's why we wanted to do an initial measurement and then measure it again sometime in the future, so we can kind of compare and then reflect on why it would be more or less over that time period, but at the same time being conscious about what criteria make up well-being, and then being able to take steps to actually improve that. The next one here on emotional intelligence, again, obviously looks very familiar to you. And by the way, I just took screenshots of these so that you have the URLs at the top here, so you know where to get those as far as a reference for this material up there. So the emotional intelligence, of course, I feel like critically important for someone who is going to work in this career field, what we are calling healthy lifestyle management here as far as a major goes. And in essence, being that person on the team that works with another individual that has the emotional intelligence of the team, right? They may be the only one on the team that has that emotional intelligence. So that it's a vital, critical role, I feel, as a member of that team, and that's why I made it such an important part about this class and an important part about this major. So those social cues that you get from the individual you're working with may be the difference maker in guiding that person to the right amount of care that they should get. So I know we've talked about this certainly before. I just wanted to touch on it here. The one that we probably haven't, or a couple of these we haven't talked about yet, Strength Finder is another tool by Gallup. Okay, there's tools that are related to this also. So this is a tool that, as the description says in here, it is going to help the individual find out what their strengths are. And so the thought behind this is you find out what your strengths are, and that's what you use to capitalize on as you go forward in doing your business, whatever it is, your personal, professional. But it helps you understand the things that you are good at, and then using those things that you're good at to be even a better person and better at your job, better at whatever it is that you're doing. It's capitalizing on your strengths. I really like this piece, this tool, because it looks at us in, we're not all created the same. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses. There are some things, some tools that you can find on personal development that find your weaknesses and try to build up those weaknesses to make them strengths. There are other tools like this that say, you know what? I have my strengths, I have my weaknesses, I recognize what my weaknesses are, but what I'm going to do is capitalize on my strengths to move forward. I love that whole philosophy and that whole mindset, partly because it's really an acceptance for who we are. We know, we all have gifts and talents, and understanding what those gifts and talents are and using those gifts and talents in the way they were meant to be used, I think is a very powerful personal development component if you can get to that spot. That's why I like the Strengths Finders. Reese Motivation Profile. Okay, so this, and I give a description on here, and of course you can find it on the website here that is listed on here. But it's a very large survey that you take, questionnaire. It's 128 items in there, and the thought behind this is we all make our decisions on a day-to-day basis, moment-by-moment basis, based on a common set of 16 items. Okay, so in the next slide I'll show you what those 16 items are. But those 16 items are measured through this questionnaire on a scale, a continuum. Okay, you're either high or low or somewhere in the continuum. High doesn't mean good, low doesn't mean bad, it just means you are where you are. So for instance, here are the 16. Acceptance, curiosity, eating, family, and so on. You can read them. But the point of this too is also can be a very powerful self-discovery tool to know why you make the decisions that you make. For instance, if you are, so one of these is eating. If you're high eating, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're overweight and that you have to eat all the time. What it means is that you value food, meaning that you're probably not going to accept going to a fast food restaurant very often. You would rather, food is more of a priority in that it's got to be higher quality food, and it just is more of a priority for you. If you're low eating, then food isn't really much of an issue for you. It doesn't mean that you don't eat very much. It doesn't mean that you always eat at fast food restaurants. It just means that food's not necessarily a priority for you. one of the things that we have done with this tool in our risk reduction program is actually use it to help design strategies for folks in their behavior change. I'll give you an example. We did a project where we had a pilot group of folks who are in the cardiovascular and diabetes risk reduction program do this questionnaire. By the way, the downside of this is that the interpretation has to be from someone who is actually certified to interpret it, and that's the downside of this. And this isn't free, there's a cost to this too. But we did it as a pilot project, and for instance, so it's just an example of how we used it. We got the results back on an individual who was high curiosity, was high social, was high eating, okay, but was low on the exercise part. So one of the strategies that we did was we said, okay, a couple of things that you can do to help improve your diabetes, knowing this about you, is let's take a cooking class on diabetes, on eating successfully with diabetes. So what they did was feed the social side, fed the curiosity side, not literally, okay, but fed the curiosity side of it, and the high eating part. So food was a priority. This person was high curiosity, that really helped to learn something new, and it was in a group environment, so it fed that social side of it, to help with eating better as a tool to help control diabetes. The other thing that we said was, okay, so you're high curiosity, but you're low exercise. That means that exercise isn't necessarily enjoyable for this person, and that was obvious before we gave the survey. But one of the things that we discovered, because this person was high curiosity, is we said, all right, so let's download something to your iPod, and then something that you're interested in learning about, some kind of information. And then while you're at work, go take a 20-minute walk and listen to this. So what that did was feed the curiosity side, at the same time get the exercise in that maybe wasn't enjoyable. So that's an example of using this person's, I don't want to say strengths because these aren't high or low, but using something that this person enjoys to help with something that is maybe not so enjoyable, but that certainly can help with manage the diabetes. And so that's how we have used this tool. And I do like this tool. The downside, as I said, is you have to find somebody who can interpret it, because the company won't allow you to just do a self-assessment. Here's one on a compassionate love scale. So the reason I wanted to include this, and we haven't used this one in any other place, but I wanted to include it in the class because we know that literature says that we can only, if we motivate people by fear, meaning that we scare them into doing a certain behavior, that'll work for a short time period, but it won't work long term. What we need to do, and the literature supports this, is that if we are there to support them and show that we care about them, then that type of relationship will help change behaviors, instill long-term behaviors with folks much more than what fear does. It doesn't mean that you don't use fear to a small extent to get people's attention, but certainly long-term we want to be there for them in a supportive role. There's a way to measure that in yourself, to see how compassionate you are. The other reason I wanted to point this out here is if you go to, this all comes from the University of Pennsylvania, in their section under authentic happiness, they have several tools, self-awareness, self-assessment type tools that are completely free. You just have to create an account. I really like the tools that a lot of the tools that they use here. I just pulled this one out, but I would encourage you to go to this and find more information out about this. It's essentially, the website up here, you can read it, but it's Authentic Happiness is the website. So check this one out, and you can do this on yourself and do the other. These questionnaires on their website are brief, and they give you some good information and insight about yourself. The last one, too, of course, related to what we do here when we work with people, is a measure of empathy. And there are a few tools out there like this. I don't have a great example of one to show you, but what I steered you to was a website that actually lists several of the tools on there. The point of me showing you this one is I feel, again, about, in order to really care for the individual in the way that they should be cared for, we should have a certain degree of empathy, and actually measuring that and being aware of our empathy is important, because maybe we're not even aware that we're not empathetic to a patient. Maybe we'll just drop the hammer on some bad news and not even think about how they're reacting to it. So I wanted to include empathy because I think it's an important piece for us to be aware of in ourselves as we go forward. So that's it. Those are some personal development tools for you that all measure different things, but I believe are all important. The point of this is, I mean, you can measure yourself to over measure yourself also on many of the tools, but I believe these ones are probably important to be aware of for the line of work that we want to do. And some of them may be even applicable to have our people we're working with take them, like the well-being and authentic happiness. Sometimes those are very revealing for patients, clients, to help them in their processes of behavior change and understanding who they are as well. So, all right. So, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm looking forward to reading your reflections and getting to actually the finality of, after reading the material in the book, the well-being and the emotional intelligence, of getting to what that means for you. So I'm looking forward to reading those things. If you have any questions, let me know. Until next time, thank you.